Alright, welcome back to spoiler season. We are about to get the reveal for Path of Exile 3.19 Lake of Kalandra. If you're watching this video when it first goes live, then get subscribed, because I'm going to be doing a live reaction to the reveal for Path of Exile Lake of Kalandra. Of course, if you just want to see the reveal and watch it, you're always free to do so over on the official Path of Exile Twitch channel, but if you want my take, you want to know what I'm excited for, or what I think is going to be really interesting, maybe even overpowered, then that'll be streamed right here on my YouTube channel. Now with that plug aside, let's get into the first thing that's important to talk about today, which is Hrimsorrow. The old version of Hrimsorrow is one of those rares that used to be really good and honestly used quite a lot. However, over time, it got eroded, because getting 50% conversion wasn't that big of a deal. In fact, right now, there are plenty of rares which have over 50% conversion. The strength and res, with overall very lacking stats, was not exactly compelling people to use them. Now early on, the flat damage they had in combination with a conversion was pretty good. But again, there's more and more sources of conversion in the game. And if you 50% converted your Blade Vortex or Ethereal Knives, well, what about the other 50%? You had to be near enough to a mastery to get 90, and even then you're missing that crucial 10%. So overall the gloves felt like they're in a very awkward spot. The new Hrimsorrow, however, are much better. They now grant 100% cold conversion. This is great if you're trying to do a conversion build early on. Remember, these are level 9 gloves. So if you wanted to do cold BV, as soon as you have a BV gem, you could slap on a pair of Hrimsorrows, throw on Hatred as soon as you get it, and you're good to go. You don't even need to be near the masteries, which is very important because certain classes do not get easy access to those masteries. Or maybe you want to do Cold Bone Shatter. Well, now you can slap on some Hrimsorrows, again get your Hatred ready, and you have Cold Bone Shatter. Karn definitely wants to know your location. But it's not all upsides. They did lose the flat damage, which is a little bit of a nerf to the item. However, I don't think it's really going to be a deciding factor in whether or not you use them. If you want flat damage, there's plenty of other unique items that also grant it. Far more importantly, it also has 100 Cold Reflect. This is an incredible amount of damage at low levels, and enemies will literally one-shot themselves when they try to hit you. Admittedly, I may be being a little bit facetious there. I don't think the Cold Reflect does all that much, unless in 3.19 GGG is going to be adding more Reflect build type stuff. After all, archetypes are built on synergies, and having base damage from Reflect on 2 items is kind of cool. It will actually mean that when you're leveling, they do a non-zero amount of damage in the early acts, but it's probably not going to be something in the end game unless there are further changes. Though I also don't think they have to be. Because there's always a question with items like this of, is it good enough? And on a budget, yes. Hrimsorrow are absolutely good enough to use, especially when you want to convert 100% of your damage to cold, you're not using a Trinity setup, and you don't want to have to worry about a Hatred Watcher's Eye. Yes, you'll be using Hatred, but adding that mod to your Watcher's Eye otherwise limits your choices. Now if we're talking about an unlimited budget, money is no issue. You could spend 5 Exalts or 5 Mirrors on your Watcher's Eye. No, these are not going to be your best in slot gloves, but that's totally okay. The core design of most uniques in Path of Exile is to do one thing very well and make it accessible to a lot of players. That's why you see things like Hrimsorrow, which is a level 9 item. That's why you see things like the Magnate, which is a level 16 item. These aren't supposed to compete with Headhunter or Mageblood. They aren't supposed to compete with a mirror tier rare, but they also don't need to. There's a lot of room in the early and mid game of Path of Exile, where right now you're kind of lacking choice. You could use a unique item that's really mediocre, or you could use a rare item that isn't going to be much more than life and resists. So with the new unique buffs, it really feels like GGG's goal is to give you options in the early and mid game, when you can't just go, alright, I'm going to make this amazing thing and it's going to be awesome. You now have choices. You could use Hrimsorrow and Cold Convert on builds that otherwise wouldn't have been accessible. Builds where otherwise you might have had to go Avatar Fire and deal fire damage not because you wanted to, not because you were leveraging those mechanics, but simply because it was the only affordable way to fully convert a physical skill. Now, I do want to talk about the Atlas device for 3.19 as well. Before I do though, a quick reminder that if you've been finding this video helpful, be sure to leave a like. If you want to see more content, I've talked about several other spoiled uniques, and those videos will be in the card right now. Or check out my second channel, 10 Gaming Thoughts, where I talk about a variety of topics, including things like why loot pets are just a way to get players to buy a solution to a developer-created problem without actually fixing anything. That'll also be in the card right now if you want to check it out for yourself. A special thanks to my patrons and channel members for helping to support videos just like this one. More about how you can help at the end. For now, let's talk Kirac's map device, which still feels a little bit weird to say because I'm just so used to it being Zana's map device. And there are a few things that stood out to me immediately. The first is that Essence and Strongbox are both on the map device, and both are relatively cheap. These are insanely good early league moneymakers. Essences are used for crafting, and you don't really have to do super juiced or super high level content to easily and efficiently farm essences. Essences are a viable strategy in as low as tier 1 maps. At 2 Chaos, they're both very affordable and incredibly profitable. Strongbox, on the other hand, can mean 6 links and scarabs, so that's no slouch either, especially if not many other people are doing it. This time around, there's no Beyond on the map device, so rip to Headhunter enjoyers. Though of course, there are still plenty of other ways to get that juice by investing your Atlas passives. What's really interesting to me is we have both Heist and Expedition on the map device, and that makes me wonder, is Expedition there just because it hasn't been before? And at 12C, is it better or worse than using scarabs? What does Heist do? Is it just a cache that gives a contract? That honestly doesn't seem all that worth it. Now, maybe with a chance for a blueprint and full investment into Heist nodes, it'll be okay. But could this also mean that Heist is one of the mechanics that GGG is giving a fresh coat of paint? Maybe reworking in some way, or otherwise improving? Does it mean that you'll get more than just one cache? You'll get 2 or 3? It's going to be interesting to see the way in which this is implemented. Regardless of a Heist implementation though, there do seem to be a lot of good strategies available early on, scaling all the way up into Expedition. And I guess thinking about it more, maybe the Expedition that you get from this is worse than what you'd get with scarabs. But because it's 12C instead of taking up a scarab slot, that does mean you can run 4 different scarabs to potentially juice your content even more. I do also plan to talk about the divination cards which were revealed, but that feels like a topic for a different video, so keep an eye out for that in the near future. For now, I only have one question. What are you planning to use for your Atlas strategy in 3.19? Leave some of your thoughts down in the comments below. A special thanks to my patrons and YouTube channel members. Your support helps keep me independent and allows me to turn down things like sketchy mobile game sponsorships. You can do so for as low as $1 a month over on Patreon, or if you want to support me completely for free, then you can join the community by hopping into my Discord, link below. If you want more content, check out my second channel, 10 Gaming Thoughts. It's a place that I use to review games, ramble my way through video essays, and a lot more. Or of course, you can just click the suggested video in the card right now. I hope you learned something today, and maybe I'll see you again sometime soon.